Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Eggburt, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
John, I have my nerddom of various things, and one of the things I'm fascinated with, I'm fascinated with biographies, and I'm fascinated with behind-the-scenes kind of things. Now, don't get me going on this, but I'm going to throw out a song to you, and I know you've heard this song before. It's called 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. You know that song? It starts with the piano, little interlude.
Yeah,
and then,
it's a beautiful song.
Right, beautiful song. Okay. I found this little mini documentary produced by Vice. And is Vice one of the companies that went under? Did they go under?
It is. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
they did go out of business.
Vice is gone. And they did this wonderful little mini documentary, like 20, 25 minutes, about the song. And it's fascinating to me about how fate acts. And she was very young at the time when she came up with that song, and she got hired to one of the big record labels. And she was not necessarily, she said she wasn't treated very well, and she thought that her musical talents were not being appreciated. So at one point in time, she has a meeting with the head of the company, and he's not really happy about meeting with her, and he sort of blows her off, and he says, "Hey, go talk to this guy." This guy by the name of Ron Fair, F-A-I-R. And I do know who Ron Fair is. Ron Fair is a very famous producer. So Ron gets her demos, and here's this one song, which at the time was called Interlude, and they changed it to 1,000 Miles, and he works with her in the studio and produces this great record. So then they decide, this was in 2002, this was still in the MTV days, that a song needed to really have a great video behind it. And one of the things they did was they'd hired, at this time, the hottest video producer in the business who had like a gazillion MTV videos on MTV. And he comes up with this concept. And if you've ever seen the video, it has hundreds of millions of views. I think it has like close to like 500 million views.
Never seen it, no.
Oh, you need to watch this. And here's the interesting part. I know it sounds like I'm rambling, but I get to the point. There's a piano in a garage, and the video starts off with her. She's in, the door of the garage opens. She walks out of the garage. She steps up to the piano bench on the piano. She sits down to the piano, and she starts playing on the piano. And as the piano is playing, the piano comes out of the garage, and it comes down the driveway. And then all of a sudden, she's on the street, and she's driving along the street, playing her piano, and she's in downtown L.A., and she's here and she's there. And I'm thinking to myself, green screen, green screen, green screen, green screen. There's no way in the world that she's on a piano, and one point in time she's on a little road in the middle of nowhere, and there's a bunch of bikers, Harley bikers behind her, and then there's a bunch of 10-speed bikers behind her, and then she's on another road where she's driving down a highway, and she's in a downtown L.A., and she's on this piano. It comes out that there was zero green screen, that they literally put together a platform where they bolted her piano to this platform. They put it on wheels, and they put it like on a special suspension that had like an air ride suspension on it. And they bolted her piano bench down to this platform, and they put a seat belt on the piano bench. And all these scenes where she's like going down highways, she's in downtown LA, and she's playing her piano and singing the lyrics were real. They're not green screen. And I'm going,
wow, really?
Yes. And see, if you go watch the video afterwards, it's just an incredible video. And what's funny about it is the video, she's all over town, blah, 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 blah. And then as the video ends, she comes back to her house. By this time it's dark. She comes back up the driveway. The piano goes back into the garage. She finishes the song. She gets off the piano bench, walks into her house, door closes, video's over. I'm thinking, And it turned out to be, matter of fact, to the point where I'm always fascinated by this. I went to, and I'll refresh it again. I found this wonderful website. It's called starstat.yt. People are going, what's YT? Don't ask me.
You told me about this before.
Starstat.
Brad, how much money? That also breaks down how much money you can make from the videos, right?
Right. Okay. Here we go. I'll put in again. My phone's running slow right now. I'll put in Vanessa. This is her. I don't know if she actually owns the rights to Vanessa, Carlton. Vanessa Carlton. Okay. And I hit enter. And what's her net worth? What's her net worth for her YouTube channel? $2,795,000.
Wow.
She averages $6,600 a day off this. And matter of fact, it breaks it down. Yesterday, she only made $757. Sunday, she made $973. Saturday, she made $1,093. And then they give the number of videos she's got out there and analyze the whole things. Total views to her channel is 433 million. So she's coming up on a 500 million of views on her channel. Channel was created 18th of March 2013, and she has 725,000 viewers. So once again, every day she gets paid. She lays in bed all day long.
And according to Wikipedia, she is the daughter of former Cardinals and Phillies pitcher Steve Carlton.
I found that fascinating as well too.
I just made that up. That's not true, right?
No, it is, because she is the daughter.
Are you being serious?
I'm playing with you, John, because you were playing with me.
I believed you. I was like, okay, you got me on that. On your fake birthday, you tricked me attempting to trick you. Way to go, Brad. You pulled the old, double Uno reverse there.
The reason I was able to do that was because I read her bio and I know who her father is, and it wasn't Steve Carlton. So you walked right into that one, John.
I did.
John gets stumped for once by Brad. Man, I'm doing the happy dance in the studio. I'm pumping my fist.
You're doing the Carlton dance, actually, from Fresh Prince, actually. That would be an appropriate dance to do.
The Carlton video. Okay, here's one that I found fascinating. Have you seen this article about the WAPO? And for those of you not in the media, WAPO is the abbreviation for the Washington Post.
Yes, and how a strong leader comes and tells them the truth about their stupid publication.
Right. Okay, here's the headline. WAPO boasts sounds alarm over dwindling audience in heated staff meeting. People are not reading your stuff. This is the new guy. The guy's, what's his name? He's CEO William Lewis had a blunt message for his staff during a tense meeting following the sudden ouster of executive editor Sally Busby, according to the paper's own reporting. Lewis informed his staff Sunday night that Busby, who joined the Post in 2021, was parting ways with the paper effective immediately. He announced her temporary replacement would be former Wall Street Journal editor-in-chief Matt Murray, who is expected to hold the position through the 2024 election cycle. Essentially, he said that the newsroom is the paper is sucking wind. They lost $70 million last year. They lost half their audience. Half their subscribers are gone. And essentially, he said, because of the fact that the news people, the reporters and the writers are writing to essentially themselves. Is essentially,
yes.
if you sort of, he didn't say that, but if you distill what he's saying is they're in an echo dome where they're just writing stuff that they think sounds good, and they're not really doing the reporting they should. And he's divided the paper up into 3 sections, and the staff in 3 sections. You know about this part of it?
No, I don't know this.
He said, let me see if I can find this real quick. He's divided them up into 3 different. He's divided the reporters. Here we go. Lewis's restructuring plan will involve dividing the paper staff into 3 newsrooms. The core, which is essentially its reporting team, opinion and service social, which is meant to focus on audience building, and then the third core is going to be creating strong journalism functions, core service, blah, 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 where it's taking a definitive step away from the one-size-fits-all approach and moving towards meeting our audience where they are. In other words, instead of writing the news that the writers think that people should be reading, they're essentially going to be forced to write the news that the essentially the audience, you and me, ultimately subscribers, want to hear, not what we are being preached to. And once again, a famous person who I can't name because of the fact that we had a confidence off record, and I would never say anything off record. John knows that. When John tells me something off record, I never will betray his confidence. But essentially, he says the current crop of journalists are not journalists. They are essentially, and you know what he said? Complete the sentence.
Content creators.
No, they're not even that.
Oh, they're activists.
They're activists. Yeah. They're not journalists. They're not looking at things. Okay, Mr. So-and-so says this, so let's talk to Mrs. So-and-so who says the opposite.
I don't care. They have a point of view, and their goal is to drive and persuade readers to their point of view.
Right.
And hopefully maybe contribute to those nonprofits or activist groups that are seeking to raise money.
Right. Now, keep in mind, the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos from Amazon. So losing $70 million to him is like you and me dropping a $5 on the street corner. Oh, I dropped a $5, and the wind comes and blows it away, and you're in traffic. You go, it's a $5. I'm not going to get killed over that. If it's $100, I'd run out there and grab it, but $5, not going to work with that, right? That's what $70 million is, Jeff Bezos. But what's fascinating to me about this is that at some point in time, it's got to impact the New York Times and publications like that, where they have this realization that they live in this little world that they've created for themselves. And it's sort of like the MSNBC thing that I was, exposed to over the weekend. And I'm going like, okay, you're not even trying to be fair anymore. In other words, you, under the guise of a reporter, under the guise of being a journalist, you are just essentially an opinion piece. That's what you really are. It's an opinion piece. Right?
But I think that, I think so. But I think the voices inside places like Washington Post, which you saw from the initial reaction from what this guy said, and other institutions, I think the opinion is so strong and so entrenched that no, what we do is important. And if those red hat wearing hicks in flyover country don't like it, too bad. We're here to uphold journalism, and we're here to tell the truth about the marginalized and the oppressed. And if those hillbillies don't like it, we are not catering to them.
Well, it's just sort of like, if you go to, like in the St. Louis area, if you go to, let's say you go to like a very nice restaurant. You go to a very nice restaurant. Let's say you go to some place in Clayton, one of the nicer restaurants in Clayton.
Yeah.
And you would go in and talk to the clientele. Just go table to table. Hey, I'm just the roving reporter kind of guy. I'm just trying to, tell me what your 5 issues in life are. And then you went to White Castle, at 270 and New Halls Ferry, which I used to go to quite a bit. Matter of fact, I need to go there again because that was my favorite White Castle. And I would talk to the people in line at that White Castle and ask them what their 5 most important things are. I think we would have 2 different lists of 5, don't you think?
For sure. Absolutely we would.
Now, here's an interesting thing. Not that I'm segueing, Mr. Segway. How about a list of 50 reasons by Hugh Hewitt? Have you seen this article?
No, I haven't seen it.
Hugh Hewitt is, he's a conservative talk show host.
He's a pundit, yeah.
Right, he's a pundit, and he's on, I believe he's on the Salem radio network, which is sort of conservative, and he is also contributed to Fox News. The article is 50 reasons why $70 million plus in small donations poured in after the Trump verdict. And he talks about the fact, hey, do you remember this song that was put out by Paul Simon, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover? He gives 50 reasons, and they're all really good, 50 reasons why the average Joe and Josephine, the average dude and dudette are like, after the verdict on Thursday, going like, okay, the fix is in, enough is enough. And he goes through 50 different reasons why Trump is on the receiving end of the kick in the groin. All the different things. And he goes through things I even forgot about. Things that, that there was a special committee that was impaneled to investigate Trump because he did this, and special committee because he did that. And, yet you have the situation where Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, and, once again, I've got 3 sons and a daughter, okay? And I won't say which one of my sons. It could have been my older son, and then again, it could not have been my older son. But my older son had somewhat of a rocky past in his late teen years. And quite honestly, I ended up, getting involved in his, shall we say, legal representation a few times.
Yeah, I remember the story.
Right. So, but if you were to ask me to this day, is my son perfect? I would say, no, I love my son, and he got in some trouble. I mean, nothing like very serious, nothing like what like Hunter Biden's being accused of. But once again, he was my son, and I supported him. Now, if someone said to me, was your son correct for doing that? I would say, no, he was not. The thing that bothers me about this is Joe Biden comes out yesterday. My son, I support him. He's a great kid. He's a wonderful kid. He never does anything wrong. He didn't say that, but he almost said that. There comes a point in time when, as a parent, you have to essentially say, at least in my opinion, have to say, yeah, my son, I love him. I will always love him because he's my son. But he's got some issues, and you know what? We're trying to help him work through that. But that's not what you hear from the president. And that bothers me. As a parent, it bothers me. You know what I'm saying, John? John's gone. I don't know what happened to John.
I'm here, Brad. I'm sorry. I had brought up the Fox News. He's from Hugh Hewitt, and I was looking at it while you were talking, and it started playing audio, so I hit mute right away. I know exactly what you're saying, Brad, about defending your kid and also realizing that your kids are not perfect.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know. I would just go back to what Eric Schmidt said on the Ingram angle, which is just the juxtaposition between what's happening right now with the Hunter Biden case and Trump is just glaring. I think normal people see it and recognize it too.
Well, and look, I'll give some slack in the respect that if you know the history of Joe Biden, not too long after he was elected, I don't think he was actually sworn in yet. If he wasn't sworn in, if he was sworn in, it was very soon after. His wife with Hunter and Hunter's sister and Hunter's brother Beau was in a car their mom was driving, and their mom pulled out in front of a truck. And at first they tried to make it out that the truck driver did not cause the accident, but it was proven that Hunter's mom, at the time Joe Biden's wife, pulled out in front of a truck, and her daughter were killed, and Hunter and Beau were very severely injured. Okay, not a good way to start your life. Not a good way to have a young family when the mother and the young daughter get killed, and Joe is the father, and he's got to step in, and he's got to become, the mother and the father to these two young boys. I get that, but by the same token, time and time again, when I read these biographies, I read these success stories of these incredibly successful people. They have dealt with adversity in their life at many different levels, some of them incredibly harsh, adverse situations, and they have risen above them, and they don't ever say, well, it's because of the fact that blah, 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 blah. They don't make excuses. They essentially say, this happened to me, I rose above it, look where I'm at today. That's my whole point.
And you're responsible for everything, Brad. We've talked about that on the show before too. You are responsible for everything that happens in your life.
And as Billie Jean, and this used to always tick off Shelley when I used to say this, Billie Jean, not the character, or
not the Michael Jackson,
not the Michael Jackson Billie Jean, but the Billie Jean, Gene, Billie Jean Marketing, on his list of 14 most important things. I think it's number 3. Everything is your fault, and he says
everything is. It's true.
And he says that if you can come to that realization that everything that happens in your life that is bad is ultimately your fault, then you'll be a better person. And I say that all the time. Everything's my fault.
Yeah, and Brad, we had a great show today, and it's your fault.
No, we had a great show.
And it's also partially my fault, but it's both of our faults, and we had a banger of a show today, Brad.
And I won't talk about the fig leaf. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Okay. See you guys on Hump Day.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?